So, and because I thought everything was going to go great, I had no worries at all. I was the best person, whatever. Everything was great, and except for like I wasn't. And then after it all comes like crashing down and all spinning apart, and then trying to go and put all that back together and find a new approach, and got remarried. And then as I'm trying to go and again help people and make their situation better, and then that's when I get challenged to go and find my faith.
Welcome to the Hey Brother podcast, where Catholic men share about real struggles. I'm Nick Clooney, your host, a Catholic psych mentor and the founder of Craft It For More, a mentorship practice dedicated to helping men live more radically free lives. Each week, I sit down with a man to hear his story about how brotherhood has shaped him, the struggles he's facing, and where he wants to grow. In addition to our weekly interviews, I share conversations with my brother Mitch. Subscribe and follow so we can walk this journey together. We want your help to build a stronger, authentic Catholic brotherhood. Hey, welcome back everyone to the Hey Brother podcast. Today I'm joined by Peter Holm, financial advisor. And how many kids do you have?
So we have a total of 7 kids.
7 kids, husband and father, 7 kids, high school all the way down to young.
Yeah, 18 down to 3.
18 down to 3.
Definitely a busy house.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know you a little bit from just being in the same Dayton area and talking about business things together here and there. But for folks who are catching you and don't know you, what's maybe like a one-line or a couple of lines on who you are and what you do?
So yeah, I'm a convert to the faith. Came in to the church in 2017.
Okay.
And then that was January time frame. Interesting road to get there. But end state was worked a bunch of technical background type jobs. So I got a degree in computer science, thought I was going to be doing computer things my entire life. And then all of the weird stuff with 2020 and the pandemic and all that. And then all of a sudden my entire direction for my life changed. And being Catholic had a great impact in that. And then now I do financial advisory services for Catholics. So,
Gotcha.
And try to be as integrated as I can into the community while still trying to take care of the family and balancing that. It's always a challenge, but either way, it's fun and it's a cool, going back challenge. I like the challenge. It's great.
The challenge. It's a lot of change from, 2017 is when you came into the faith.
Yes.
3 years later, COVID. And then career change, and now here we are in 2025. But I know there's a lot more to the story besides just those small changes. Do you want to get into that at all? Like, or maybe one of the questions that I like to ask guys, like, what are they passionate about right now? What's your story? Whichever direction you want to spin that. Maybe it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, right now, I'd say the passion is trying to myself work on living so that everything that I do is aligned with the faith.
Yeah.
So I think too many guys, from a religious standpoint, think that you can go to church on Sunday and then after you go to church, you just do whatever you're going to do. Mm-hmm. And the problem is if you live that way in all that you do, well, your religion will never be that important. Yeah. Because everyone else is going to see it. God's going to see it. And in the grand scheme, you're going to end up unhappy if you don't keep everything together. So it's all like, regardless of everything else in the world, get up in the morning for Christ, go and, say goodbye to your family for Christ, go to work for Christ, come back home, take care of the family for Christ. And you just do it all over again, regardless of the fact that mass is going to happen in the middle, right? Yeah. And then trying to go and make sure that balance allows me to be virtuous the whole way. And it's very easy to just fall into trying so hard on something that you never get to that next level of virtue. And while maybe you feel like, oh man, I'm doing really, really good. I'm being really generous today, except for then you're being prideful somewhere else. And it's like, and so trying to balance and keep all the plates spinning is the hardest part of the lifestyle. But if I can do that, then it helps me to set an example to help other guys come in to do the same thing. And then that's where like working in the job that I work in, having the ability to help people align all of their professional, financial, personal, everything they do to the church as best we can. Like, it's awesome. So the goal is just trying to keep everything aligned and not to try to I should say, try to avoid being two-faced in terms of how we live.
Is that something you like brought into like the Catholic faith as you were like coming in? Like that was that like a part of your person, like pursuing virtue and like wanting to live an integrated life, like coming into the faith, or was there like a switching point that you're like, I'm a Catholic person, kind of following? Because it's not abnormal. Like a lot of guys are the way that you're describing, where it's like I go to Sunday, very compartmentalized. Like there's my faith, then my work, then my family life, instead of it actually like weaving together, which ends up creating, it's like hard, like because you're trying to like you're
Be
spending
two people.
yeah, and you're spending a lot of energy to keep that up, right? You're spending
Yes.
a lot of energy to like make everything compartmentalized when it's like actually you can weave these together. Yeah, was that something you sought like prior to the Catholic faith, or was that something that was like more of a clicking in the faith? Or
I had a very Protestant view of I just want to be a good person. And like thinking of myself of trying to be a good person and trying to help people and trying to do what I thought was charitable and trying to care about people the way I thought you were supposed to care about them. And in the grand scheme, all I ended up realizing as I was converting is that most of my pursuits had been facade.
okay,
It was not actually like, it was just superficial. So on the surface, it looks really great, but in the grand scheme, all I was really doing is servicing my own comfort, servicing my own pride, not really being a man of service the way I should have been.
yeah,
And then definitely challenged then my capacity to be a husband, to be a father, and all the other stuff. Because like before becoming Catholic, like I had already been divorced, like, and then gone through all sorts of that. No stormy waters. And then ideally though, the goal is to help people be better. Like I love helping out, like, because that's what I told you before. Like I've got the 2 YouTube channels out there of stuff that I've done in the past, right? I want to help, I want to educate, but I think there was no way to make it truly stick with actual power behind it until it was Catholic. And now it's like, okay, now the goal is like, look, this is for Jesus Christ the King. This is for Blessed Mother, Queen Mary, like stuff like that. It's like now there's meat behind it. Now there's real substance. Now the staying power is no longer mine. I become a vessel, as opposed to where prior to converting, I was the center of everything. That's what was the mess. That was what was wrong. And honestly, it's too easy to fall into it. And now the big challenge is making sure that I'm only the ancillary. I'm the sideshow, and not even a sideshow, but a side vehicle or a mechanism to be used by Christ. So that's kind of the change.
Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting how like it felt self-centered in a way, like prior to it, but it's like still pursuing some sort of good, right? I want to help people. That's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. That's general, what everyone wants to be. Because here's the thing: even evil, even to someone who's doing bad, excuse me, they still feel in their own head that they're doing a good. And
right.
I think Thomas Aquinas talks about that. They still think they're doing a good for something.
Yeah.
Even if it's just self-serving completely, because it just gets them out of another pain.
Yeah. Even pulling out of like from like the big picture, like because you could look at like, you know, dictators or people who like are doing it for the common good or the good of something, but pulling it into like our individual lives, I think we can fall into that really easily. Like when we're angry or something like that, we're like justice oriented, right? Like
right.
I need you to do X, Y, Z because I'm angry and like this is what justice demands. And there's certainly a healthiness to like some anger, but sometimes we get kind of contorted in our own experience or mind where it's like it feels justified to us in the moment. It feels like whatever I'm about to say to this person, maybe in a not so charitable way. It's like I justice demands that I be a dick to this person or a jerk to this person, and it's like, well, like when you review it, it's like maybe not so much. But
yeah, justice, and that's where going back to how the faith changed it is now the goal is it's not me who's the ultimate arbiter of whether or not what I do is just. It's God's determination as to whether or not what I'm doing is just. And so
was that big wrestling point for you, like prior to?
I think it has been like my entire life. It's just a pride thing. It's like sitting there going, I look at myself and I've never had trouble doing hardly anything. Like if I want to do it, I can do it. But we'll go within the nerd realm. I've never been a sports guy. I don't do that.
Sure.
But everything I've tried to do and I want to succeed at, I've done pretty well. But the thing is that that lends itself to wanting to rest on your laurels and believe that success was mine, as opposed to thinking, oh, wait a minute. The only reason I still draw breath is because God's allowing me to draw breath today. The only reason that's going to keep happening is because he thinks I have something greater to do for his plan. It has nothing to do with my personal aims.
Yeah.
So if I have a misguided sense of accomplishment, I can damage a lot of stuff, a lot of it. In the same way, going back to the justice thing, right? If I have a misguided sense of justice and all I'm doing is out there just trying to render everything, settled, and trying to set the record straight, whatever. The problem is like, if I'm doing it in my own sense and not God's, it's all messed up. And then even then, you can still do something that otherwise would have been just, but if you then apply it wrong and you're not evaluating the situation, you can actually do something that's terrible. So I'm not saying it to defeat anyone who would be listening to say, well, then how do you take any action? Like, you got to do something. So the whole goal is to just continue evaluating at all times. It's the reason why I don't think you can separate church and the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Everything has to always be first and foremost, what is God thinking and what does God want me to do? And then do the best of our ability, take the leap of faith and just do something. Because I think the problem is sins of omission are real. Sins that ultimately of sloth, where basically we just decide not to do anything. We don't engage. That ultimately, I think, then has created how much problem, like issue in society. It's pretty substantial, I think.
Yeah, there's something good about like looking at the mean. Like, I love anger because it's something that everyone struggles with to some degree, particularly men. But it's like it's actually you could look at anger as a virtue to some degree, right? And it's the mean where what you're saying, like, indifference is on one side where you just don't do anything. And like, but there's injustice. So it's like, you should be doing something, where the other side's wrath, and you're not using anger in a justice oriented way, or God's justice. When you talk about this integration of the Catholic life, like into everything you do, and particularly you see it in men, like, can you elaborate on that? In like, because I'm guessing it's not just I seen a guy at church who didn't look like he was living in an integrated way. I'm guessing there's a little more experiential.
So before I converted, the thing that kept me away or gave me confidence that I thought I knew what being Catholic was, it was bad Catholics.
Okay.
So they would talk about being Catholic, but then they would...
Did you grow up around a lot of Catholics, or like...
Handful.
Okay.
A handful. And so they would talk about doing stuff and it didn't matter. And I was like, well, if it's all immoral anyway, what's the difference? Like, what I'm doing is whatever I'm doing. I don't understand why you need a body of, the church, whatever that is, to just go and keep acting like a jerk.
Yeah.
And just not be a good person. Like, all right, well, I feel better than that. And then the issue is then in the same way, it's like you'd see people that would, or hear about people praying for money or something like that. They pray for stuff where it's like,
very superficial.
What? Yeah. Why are you only praying for that? Like, that's kind of silly, because in the end, like, you could totally get it and it doesn't help. And at the same token, then if you accept the fact that God's running everything, which I did accept the fact that God ran everything, I just didn't understand the depth of the connections, then why do bad things happen? You can't pray for good stuff to happen all the time and expect there's no investment, there's no bite, there's no commitment. There's got to be, I'm missing something. I wanted to find a way so that everything could connect and make logical sense in my head. And then the problem was, prior to converting, it didn't fully line up. And so I'm trying, and that's what ultimately started to make all the connections. I wanted to say, okay, as opposed to being illogical, I talk about Jesus, but don't actually do anything Jesus-like. I talk about Jesus, but I don't actually want to do anything hard. I don't want to be a patriarch. I don't want to sacrifice. Let's try to get all that lined up again so I can actually be close to it. And again, I say all of this under the full acknowledgement that I am still failing on a regular basis. And it is still exceptionally difficult to be good. And I think the world is absolutely set in trying to make sure as many of us fall as possible. They want us to not only separate church and our life, because for how many people are discouraged from becoming Catholic because they saw hypocrisy in a Catholic? Yeah. And then from that standpoint, then, if everyone was looking at the world that way, then Judas him alone should have actually ended the Catholic Church. through hypocrisy. Peter could have done the same thing through his hypocrisy. However, because Christ is what it's all about. Christ is the center. God's the center, right? You have, the Trinity, the saints. And because of the Holy Ghost in the church, you basically have an incorrupt body, and all of a sudden, guess what now? Now this incorrupt body, as long as we do what needs to be done so we can be as close to incorrupt as possible and attached to it, now everything works. Now everything lines up. Now there's hope. But that's going back to why the world would not want you to do that. Because the world is run by Satan. Satan wants to crush that. If they can take you down, easy. He gets what he wants. He proves his point.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. All that runs through my head on a regular basis of how to navigate the world and not be taken down by it and stay holy, because there's got to be some way to live a congruent life where you're taking care of the things you need to take care of, whether it's a father, a husband, a brother, a son, a boss, an employee, whatever it is.
Yeah, to go back just a minute to what you're saying on being still a work in progress, right? We're constantly failing. I tell that to the folks I work with in mentorship. I'm like, hey, you gotta be easy on yourself here, compassion for yourself. We're not making excuses to go sin or excuses to not try, but have compassion on yourself. It's actually what we're called to is a lot harder than what what we might give that mission credit to. And so I never tire of that, talking about using myself as an example in my work. It's the number of times I need to apologize to my kids or my wife because I failed every day, every moment if I'm around them, right? There's small moments where I could have done a better job loving in the way that Christ calls us to love. And apologizing goes a long way to make that happen. But I bring that up and want to go back to that just for a minute, because what do you think is the biggest barrier for guys starting to live in more of that integrated way? Because hearing you talk, it's it sounds like a hard thing to do. It doesn't sound like an easy thing to do. And today's world wants us to stay kind of rooted in complacency, kind of just keep going status quo, don't really bother checking in and reviewing my day or looking at things. What gets in the way of guys actually making that jump into I'm gonna try to do this thing?
The barriers that I see that I suffered from, especially as a younger guy, before converting even, that definitely detached me from reality. I would say honestly all the technology stuff, all of this, because the technology in and of itself, as much as it could be used for good, and everyone's saying it is benign, sure. Problem is it's very flashy, it's very loud, it's so distracting, it's immersive, and it's trying to become even more immersive. It gets to the point where the human, the person, wants to live through the devices and they don't want to actually live through nature. And so nature is only corrupt because of sin, not because of God. God built it perfect. All of our technology, on the other hand, is imperfect because people made it, not God. So all of our corruption is actually built into every one of those devices and all of those systems that we've created on our own. So the end state is, now what happens when you immerse yourself in that, and that's what you live in. That's all you see. That's all you interact with people. That's always attached to that interaction. You can never separate. So now, one, all my interactions are going to be flawed. How many people have started a fight over a text because they took the tone wrong?
Right.
And it's come on. And you could do the same thing with email, right? You can end up with issues with email the same way, right? So we're breaking the ability for people to be charitable to each other because we're using technology as opposed to talking in person. Then if I want to go one more step further, what happens when I think that I'm going to be a keyboard warrior and I'm going to change the world remotely? And I put all my time and effort into these things that are huge and big and across whatever, and I'm on this chat room and I'm in this Facebook feed and I'm on whatever. It's in the grand scheme, whenever we all die, will that actually add up to anything? Is the big question. Versus, had we focused ourselves locally? Have I talked to my wife today? Have I talked to my kids today? Have I gone and thought about my interactions with them? And you're saying, Thought about, hey, where have I let you guys down? Where can I improve? What does our next interaction need to look like? What's on our schedule for the next month? Like all that stuff right now is like one of the things I'm trying to work on a lot. Why? Because in the grand scheme, I can change that. Like I can have a positive impact there. I can make their lives completely different, substantially different, in a way that I will never be able to impact the life of somebody who's reading a Facebook feed or reading a message from a text or a tweet or fill in the blank.
Yeah. It's one of the things I constantly challenge guys who are listening to the podcast, because like they fall into that category. I fall into that category if I'm listening to the podcast where it's like we're just consuming. It's like go interact in real life and watch your life change, right? Like one beer, and maybe this could be like the subtitle of the podcast. One beer can change your life, right? With a friend, with a guy, with a brother, or a coffee, right? To actually engage in something that's so much more substantial than just listening or reading or...
It's real life. It's personal.
Yeah.
Like, which means it's intimate. And the thing we have to remember is like, if God actually interacts with us intimately on a daily basis, watching and knowing everything that's going on in our head and knowing every challenge that we're facing, he has felt the pain that we feel.
Yeah.
He didn't deserve it. We do. But the thing is now then, are we... taking advantage of that connection and then now using the grace that he's giving us in that connection to give it to other people? Are we being a conduit? And what I think is, unfortunately, technology allows people to cut that conduit of grace off.
It's almost like even like an example of like just being like consumers, right, of God's grace, right? I'm used to consuming YouTube. It's a good that I'm receiving, and like,
but we're not producers.
Exactly. And like the same thing could be directly applied to our spiritual life, right? Like I'm just consuming God's grace instead of actually producing.
And the issue is if you go to the parable of the talents, though, isn't that the one where basically they go make more versus the guy who just buries it? All the consumers are basically burying what they got from God. Yeah. And in the end, where God wanted you to go and become that guy who shared the grace with somebody else so they could share it with somebody else, and the chain reaction of good continues to cascade. Unfortunately, I think that most of the technology cuts us off and forces us to bury the talents, the graces in the ground. So we don't actually share them anymore. Yeah. So now what God has done is we become a dead end, and the question becomes like, do we think he's really going to keep giving over and over and over again if we keep spiting him? And that's where like stuff like St. Alphonsus did a talk, moral theologian, love him the best. Of all the saints out there, if you want to feel bad about yourself, read St. Alphonsus. Because he's going to go into and be like all the things you failed from a moral standpoint. Okay. One of his sermons was actually the number of sins beyond which one could no longer be saved.
Interesting.
Because he's like, some people actually only ended up having one mortal sin and died right after that, and God took them and didn't give them the chance to fix it.
Wow.
And others, he's allowed to have multiple sins on multiple sins, but it's all in God's plan. And since we don't know God's plan, we should never take for granted the fact that I get tomorrow, that I can even get to a confessional.
Yeah.
The fact that in the end, if I don't know what happens tomorrow, and in the same, what I'm doing is I'm saying from a transitive standpoint, when we would presume graces work the same way. Yeah. He doesn't have to give me any more grace. He's choosing to for all of us. So the whole thing I worry about is if you have an opportunity for grace in this moment and you refuse to take it, that grace offering is gone. You'll never get that specific grace back. And then you wait for the next one, hoping it's going to be there. Yeah. But there's no guarantee he's even going to give it to you, depending on how much longer we have to live. So if I only know I have only so many opportunities to get grace, and that means I only have so many opportunities to then be the medium to help transfer, to spread, to share that grace, then I really need to be putting it on myself to work as hard as possible to make sure that every single time I can go and share it, I'm sharing it. Yeah. And that's the hardest part, because overall our vice and technology turns us in on ourselves and we don't share anymore. And now we're not actually doing what we needed to do, which was to be children of God and then express the loving nature of God so that people would want to be in a relationship with us, to be ultimately as I should say really that their relationship with us actually is what encourages them to have a relationship with God.
Yeah, that witness. Yeah, sorts. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like Faustina or Therese, I think, had this prayer where they're like, give me all the graces that other people aren't receiving. Like it's a pretty powerful prayer. And if it was Therese, I'm blanking on who it was specifically, but she's now the patroness of mission, like evangelization. And she definitely has changed the world by asking for that grace, and then now is in heaven interceding for us. But I love that call to like, it's only in like this present moment that you can actually really receive grace from the Lord. And there's there's opportunity to consistently miss that. Unless you're actually turning towards that. And it's a tricky both and, because it's like, we're called to do so much. At the same time, the only way we can change and draw in conversion is when we recognize how little we can actually do, right? And it's like, and when I say we're called to do so much, it's like, really, it's called to collaborate with what God's doing in our lives, right? That's the big call. And in each and every moment is like, how are we allowing ourselves to be his conduit?
An analogy that I like, because I think it helps describe it, is God is painting a mural, the most beautiful painting you could ever imagine in your entire life. And he has a host of brushes that he's actually using to paint with and colors. And the issue becomes is that if you, as a brush, decide for whatever reason to fight the master in his painting, how much use are you providing as a brush? Like, are you providing and building on this mural that other people can see, that they're like, wow, I can't believe what God's done. And if you are not cooperating with that, how long till God casts you aside and says, I'll use another one? Like, he still's going to paint it. It's going to be painted regardless of whether we're with him or not. The goal is to decide whether or not we want to be part of this creation or not. And then I think as parents, it totally rings true. You see it in kids, and I think same with even as spouses. There's a bunch there where it's like everything becomes very clearly apparent in terms of how little we actually can control. And at the same token, how much we actually can impact. Even though I can't control it. It's like, oh my goodness. So there's just a lot of thought that I think people should be putting into their why they do what they do, where they want to go.
Like as you were talking about that, that's kind of what came to mind, is like this, like, how are we examining our actions? How are we, like, the examine prayer at the end of the day is like a perfect thing to tie into that analogy of the brush, because it's like, where in my day was I aligned with God and his movement of the brush? Where have I been fighting it a little bit, and like it's just like a little like crooked, like in the line, God writes straights with crooked lines, so like he works with us in our imperfections. And then where was I like not even like remotely close to where God wants me to go, right? Like there's times we can look back. So that's the consistent theme that I'm hearing from you in a lot of ways, is like, how are we like looking and reviewing and like actually paying attention to how we're living our life instead of living checked out. And even looking at technology as one of the biggest barriers to that, it's crazy how generationally there's something new, like from the dawn of TV or maybe even radio, where it just like one generation has a particular technology that's their vice. Like we were talking about this before starting the podcast, AI, right? That's going to be the newest generation's, like, I don't need to think. I can just use AI to think for me, right? And like that's their way of checking out. But it's like for at least for me and talking with my brother, it's like YouTube and like internet, like that's the bane of like the generation that I exist in, and TV prior to that, like
and video games
video games. That was a time frame for me where video games were tough, but then I started having kids and like that no time. It's like, well, that's one way to cut it.
Thank God.
But so it's just like, cool to hear. We want guys to start living integrated ways. What's the biggest barrier? Paying attention, like actually like checking in instead of checking out consistently. What kind of like to steer the conversation just a little bit away from that, more to your story, like what struggle or challenge has God used to kind of call you out of that or shape you in a particular way?
I think my divorce got me the first, like, hardest of all the things, because I was so confident about the way everything was going to work out to the point of being retarded. So And because I thought everything was going to go great, I had no worries at all. I was the best person, whatever. Everything was great, and except for like I wasn't. And then after it all comes like crashing down and all spinning apart, and then trying to go and put all that back together and find a new approach, and got remarried. And then as I'm trying to go and again help people and make their situation better, and then that's when I get challenged to go and find my faith. Like, hey, is everything that you are teaching or everything that you say do you really, is that correct? Or, and then I had a buddy who basically steered me towards church fathers, and then I started reading.
Wow.
And then so after probably like 9 months of reading church fathers, and then I was like, oh crap, I'm Catholic. And that changed everything. But like, I honestly think the divorce spurred it all and started a new look at myself.
Yeah.
And then from there, then reading all the church fathers and then starting my way into the church, the only way I can describe it is like being shattered into 1,000 pieces. And then you're still trying to figure out which of those pieces you never want to put back in again. Mm-hmm. And then which ones you're keeping. Yeah. And then that was the struggle in the conversion and going through that. And then honestly, then the current struggle then is, which is the hardest thing to try to tell to kids and other people. It's like, man, if you have an opportunity to avoid sin and you can do what needs to be done to avoid ever being in the places to commit those sins, so you never have to remember them and you never have to struggle with them and you never have to try to continue to overcome, like whether it's memory or habit, man, do whatever you can possibly do to avoid those things, because trying to go and fight your habits and your memories that's the hardest thing that you go from there, because you have a preconception as to how things should work based on previous actions. And then now what you're fighting is the comfort, like a heroin addiction at that point. Well, that's just what I do, even though you feel terrible in it the whole time. But the problem is it's your habitual things. You just fall back in versus taking the higher road. And then now what you're struggling with is do you have the mindset, the wherewithal, honestly, the faith and the resignation to God to say, look, you can take over, you can help with the memories, you can help with all the past damage and pains, whether it was just personally or across, into you affected other people. All of that is where I'd say that those are kind of the major struggle points. And it was the divorce, the conversion, and then now trying to go and live as a Catholic in every aspect, but still fighting all of the preconceptions and all the vices along the way, trying to get to the point where all those are cast aside and you can still set your course and go. Yeah,
that's awesome. If you could give men who are listening like one kind of word of encouragement or like a lesson learned from your own story to take and like practically apply, what would be like that word? What would be that encouragement? Because I think a lot of men could listen to what you're saying right now and resonate with it, but maybe they're kind of stuck in that place, like the heroin addict. Not that everyone listening is a heroin addict, but like
it's a good analogy for sin.
Yeah.
So in all fairness, the problem is when it's habitual, when you do it often, when you have a particular feeling that you like, whatever that feeling is, and you're willing to fall back into it. And it doesn't matter which of the grave sins, the cardinal sins it is. It doesn't matter. Or deadly sins, excuse me. Whichever one of the deadly sins it is, it doesn't matter. That deadly sin is the one you fall into primarily. So like, and for me, I'd say between like anger and lust, right? You just fall in out of habit. It's bad. So you try to go how you work around that, and it's concerted effort. So all I would say is from the word of advice is that God's more powerful than all of us, which means don't try to white knuckle this.
Yeah.
Like as if we're going to control it. I can't change the tide of time. I cannot change the world myself. God does that.
Yeah.
All I can do is be a vessel. So as long as the person, whichever guy out there is taking the advice, have faith that God has the power to change all of it. And all I have to do is be a willing accomplice. I just have to resign myself that he actually understands the landscape. He understands the challenges and the hurdles and the path I have to take, and he's going to walk with me, but I have to trust him that he's going to make that happen. I have to commit myself to doing it, and I have to be willing to have the understanding the acceptance that it's going to hurt. Like, that's Calvary for all of us. So
And that
have
could be
hope.
Yeah.
He's going to take you there. It's going to hurt, but he's going to let you go through there and have confidence it will never hurt as bad as Calvary hurt.
Yeah.
Jesus while he was up there.
Yeah. That could
It'll
be
never hurt that bad.
The hardest part is like accepting like this is going to suck. like
It'll hurt.
It'll hurt, and like trusting that there is always resurrection on the other side of Calvary, and like our personal pains that we're going through, but sometimes we don't see that for a long time, and it's that level of trust that we have to have. Like, okay, you say this is good and I'll follow you. And I know from my experience and talking to other men on the podcast and just in life in general, it's like I've never met somebody who has given their life to the Lord and had hard things happen and regret like what's happened 100%. On the other side, right? Like every time he's come through and is like been faithful to that trust.
I would say also, just to kind of, if I could say, summarize in one key activity, one key behavior, is that get good at offering it up. Like, find a way to excel and to accept and to love your crosses. And to find a way to give it back and accept those crosses. Especially, and I'm talking about the ones that that we didn't inflict on ourselves through something stupid. I'm talking about the fact that when other stuff around you is going wrong and we're starting to get angry and we're starting to despair, whatever. And if we can catch ourselves, and ideally having work on your prayer life so you can have those inner reflections on a regular basis, but get really good at offering up sufferings back to the Blessed Mother. Let her handle it. And what's going to happen is then it'll complete the whole cycle of our pain and our loss, and it'll actually turn it into that rebirth, that regrowth, new hope comes out of that. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's wild. It's like we can, and I'm sure there's stories, we've got to wrap things up here, stories from your own life where you could give testament to that rebirth time and time again. But it's truly amazing how the Lord always like turns the narrative on the head. Like we did the most possible evil thing that humans could in history and put God to death on the cross. And he's like, nope, resurrection. Like, let me show you how awesome I am. And that's like, I say that in kind of a trite way, but it's like for folks who are really suffering out there, like that's possible. It's really, truly possible and it's like, you might not even see it in this life, which is like the hard thing. Like we kind of have this finite, limited view on what time looks like. It's like, what do you mean my loved one, my sister, for example, my sister passed away when she was 3, born without like the left part of her heart. Like, what do you mean? Like, there's good that can come from that. It's like, no, there is. My parents are still married because of it. like there's good that can come from these things. And like, thank God I have a sister who's praying for me and all of the stuff that I do. Like I need that intercession. So, and I think that's really good encouragement. Any last things I want to also have you, I'll throw your email down in the description so guys can reach out to you and hear about what you do, financial advising, or just if they heard something they liked, they want to reach out, if that's cool with you. I'll throw that in there. But any last thoughts before we wrap things up here?
I'd say God is good. Christ is King. There's always hope. And then honestly, I recommend to everyone, continue working on your prayer life. Like build that up. Like to the point where that's what you want. Of all the habits you possibly maintain, make sure that your prayer life is habitual. Yeah. So get to the point where crossing yourself is habitual. Like it just happens all the time for whatever reason. Get to the point where you're willing to go and engage the Blessed Mother in prayer out of habit. Yeah. That you're thinking about all the time. Because what happens is then now whenever you start to get your temptations and things start to break and everything else starts to go crazy, it maintains that connection to God right there, and it makes it so you can start to endure insane amounts of hardship and pain, all because you had solid prayer life, and your habit is I keep looking towards God every single time. It starts to go bad, and so it's like there's so much that can be talked about on that front, but that's what I'd say. Get really good at the prayer life, get really focused in on the prayer life, and make it habitual to the point where you. And not that you're trying to disengage and thoughtlessly recite prayers. That's not what I mean. Right. But it should be instinctive. It should be something where we just need to relight up that portion of us that attaches to the divine when we receive the Eucharist. And that connection, as long as that's strong, then everything else starts to make total sense, and you can start to navigate this world so much easier, no matter what happens. It's awesome.
It's like having a working compass, right? Like, as long as you have the needle pointing mostly the right direction.
Yeah, be intentional, be habitual in prayer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Well, Peter, thanks so much for being on the podcast. It's great to have you. Thanks for everyone who's listening right now. Thank you for checking into the Hey Brother podcast. We'll catch you guys in the next week. If you guys are interested in what I do with my ministry, Crafted for More, mentorship for men, go ahead to craftedformore.com. I'll put the link in the description. There you can find out how I help men become who they're created to be, help them overcome addiction, help them navigate difficulties in relationship, prayer life, all that. So craftedformore.com is where you can find that out. And thank you guys for listening. Catch you next week. God bless.